Chapter, following up on that question. In a society that's very closed, where you don't talk about things that are happening to you, has there been any backlash from maybe your family or close friends because you're talking about things that people typically don't talk about?
Is this with response to when you are being abused?
Yes, so not even the mental health, but even the story of the abuse.
Yeah.
Because typically you don't talk about these things.
Yes, you hear things like, don't bring your dirty linen outside. It's a family affair. You know, so there are things that enable toxic relationships. Don't be talking about your business. Like, come on, you're dying. Like, I was dying in silence. Then a few times, there was a time I actually spoke to a friend of mine who had moved to Canada on the phone. And that was after the pastor had said, treat her like a sister. And I was lamenting to him on the phone. And my ex just walked in and she heard the conversation. And then she goes, is that what you think about me? I said, is that not what I've been telling you? It's not like we just went to see a pastor. And again, I think that people who are not professionals should not do some things like the pastor told me, treat her like a child, but did not tell her anything. You get the point? So I felt that was a bit manipulative as well. You know, he wasn't very honest. He told me one thing and then told her something else. I didn't like that at all. And then, so I would say there are so many things that we do as a people that enables abuse, basically, because that's what it is. And from what I learned from talking to Dia Houston, National Domestic Violence Hotline, Dr. Suzy, different people, there's a power and control wheel. Once you have power and you can control, you are abusing whoever it is. Because I'd rather control myself than control somebody else. If it gets to that point, you are definitely abusing the person. So there are some things that we say as a society unconsciously that enables abuse. I remember when my ex's aunt said, but the Bible says Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. And this aunt just showed up one day after the whole thing had started. She had filed for the first divorce. And now when you hear filed for divorce, it's not because she hated the relationship, it's because I was in a bad situation. As an immigrant, part of the abuse that I learned from the documentation that the National Domestic Violence Hotline, U.S. Citizenship Immigration Services gave to me was, if you see these signs, reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. I saw the signs. But you are in Nigeria. Man, how can you be calling the police on your wife? You see what I mean? So I didn't. The first one, second, but the last one, she now hit me. I was like, Now people say, how did she hit you? I was laying on the floor. You know, You know, like she was trying to trigger reactive abuse. But so I think from childhood, I've always known to, hey, think about it before you do it. These guys are trying to trap you, you know, or something. Right. So I didn't do anything. By the time I spoke to my co-workers at work, they were like, she was trying to get you to hit her so that she could call the cops on you. So things like that. But when you hear some of those sayings, you know, be a man, we kind of promotes abuse subconsciously without knowing. So her aunt shows up and says, but Christ, the Bible says Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. I was like, yeah. I left my life in Nigeria and moved here. No, I've always been a sharp mouth, really. She's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. Christ gave up his life. I gave up my life. I moved here. So, and then I remember for the first time I was bold to tell her, I said, you know, the problem with, then I generalized. I said, the problem with Nigerian women is, I generalized that. She said, what? I said, you say things like, I'm a woman. You use excuse of I'm a woman to abuse a man verbally. And then she said, but we are women. I said, but even the Bible says, bridle your tongue. And she froze. Now, Nigerians are not used to you talking to them if you're younger. But my parents were already used to that. I was assertive from childhood. So, like one time my dad told me, because I gave him feedback from one prospective person. I went to her father, and he said, there's a way you say it looks like you're insulting people, because Nigerians are also not used to assertive communication style. You dare not tell any authority, like no. So some of those things also enable abuse in a way. But I don't know if I went off on a tangent, but basically the culture does not really encourage culture. When I say culture, us, the things we do sometimes does not encourage a healthy environment for people.